Welcome back to Mind Game, a podcast to level up your life. My name is Stephanie Painchaud. I am your host. This is episode 1. So let's talk about what I want to do with Mind Game, Level Up Your Life, how I came to that name, what are some of the inspirations that I have, and why is year 47 the one where I'm going to start a podcast. So let's take a look. Welcome to Mind Game, a podcast to level up your life. My name is Stephanie Painchaud, and I'm excited for you to join me on a journey behind the scenes where we'll dig into the stories of resilience, mindset, and unlock the simple habits that will help you change the game. Before we dive in, I want to express our gratitude for your continued support. Your energy powers our quest to provide content that encourages you to unlock new levels of personal growth and step out of your own comfort zone. If you're inspired by an idea or have a suggestion for a future topic, connect with us at mindgamelevelupyourlife.com. Your feedback is a power-up that helps us continue on this epic adventure. So if you're ready to get out of your own way and explore what you didn't know you needed to know, you've come to the right place. So buckle up, open up your mind. It's time to level up. So let's take a look at what to expect in Mind Game, Level Up Your Life. In this podcast, I'm envisioning that there are, right now, 3 different types of episodes. So one of the episodes is a solo episode like this, where it'll be about what I've been learning this week. I commute to work about a half hour each way, so that's about an hour in the car every day. I love to listen to books, audiobooks. The car reads them to me. I always say I'm in the car with the author. It is always my favorite when the author of the book actually reads the book. Then that's what I remember is their voice in my head. So drop a comment down below. Let me know if you are a fan of audiobooks. It was definitely something I never thought I would spend a lot of time listening to. But the more time I spent in the car, the more I was drawn to audiobooks. And my favorite app of choice is, of course, Audible. I recently came across a fantastic motivational and inspirational app, which takes clips of different motivational speeches, different trainers, celebrities, athletes, people who are in personal growth and professional development. It takes their words, puts them to music, and then it puts all of those clips together so that you can listen while you drive, while you walk. They do have some video, they have lots of audio. If you're curious about that, I do have a Facebook group that I am just starting. So if you're catching this early on in my podcasting journey, we are starting a Facebook group. I will share some behind the scenes clips. I'm laughing because I'm sure there's going to be lots of behind the scenes clips because this is a video podcast. So the more I look at myself in the video, the more I probably want to reshoot this because the recovering perfectionist in me wants this to look perfect. But that's a comment for a little bit later, so stay tuned. I'll talk a little bit about who I am in just a moment. I used to listen to a lot of TED Talks. I love podcasts. I really just love to learn. So I would invite you to join me on this journey of learning and connecting with people. The different types of episodes, like I said, will include a solo, what have I learned this week? There'll also perhaps be solo reflections on the episodes with guests. But one of my favorite things is to interview people. So I am going to attempt to bring you guests from all over the world, and we'll have different conversations about a wide variety of topics, often coming back to mindset and how the habits and things that we choose to do, the words that we speak to ourselves, impact how we think and in turn what we do in our lives. So we are always going to look for and learn from the guests, perhaps a habit that they have that has helped them to level up. But basically, our goal in talking to guests is to learn how to level up our own life. So solo episodes, guest episodes, and I'm hoping this one will work out. I think we're on the path to doing this. A third type of episode will be called Dig In, and that will feature my daughter, and it will sometimes be conversations, perhaps in the car, as we commute to work and school. Sometimes it will be her interviewing different guests. Right now, she's thinking about interviewing different athletes and coaches and digging in to what they need to do to level up their game. So drop a comment down below. Let me know what type of episode you are most excited for. I am working on an email list. So if you're listening to this right now and you're curious about when is the next episode dropping, what's the next topic, or you have an idea, join the email list, join the Facebook group, and we will get into how did Mind Game come to be? So what is Mind Game and where did the name come from? Why is it about leveling up your life? I am a lifelong learner. I love to learn. I love to learn things I didn't know I needed to know. I love to attempt to apply those into my life. Am I always good at applying them into life? No, but I do love to learn and I'd love to share those with you. My favorite thing is after I've listened to a book in the car and I get to work is to share what exciting idea I've learned from that. And from there, and some of the live event work that I have done, I had decided that perhaps a podcast would be a great way to meet people, which is strange for an introvert like me to want to meet more people, but it is the pursuit of lifelong learning and learning how to level up my life because sometimes it just feels like you're stuck. So this is 47. 46 was all about the fitness journey. If you follow me on social media, you might see that I am 451 days as of recording this into the fitness journey, and hopefully that streak is continuing. So every day I commit to doing 10 minutes of physical activity. Some days I include meditation, some days it's yoga, some days it's going for a walk, some days it is my favorite workouts, which are Carolyn Gerben workouts on YouTube. And I just purchased her app and I'm trying that out. But where did Mind Game come from? During the summer, I'd had a few health issues. I have dealt with melanoma once. I have had a couple scary close calls with breast lumps and had to have biopsies for those. And so dealing with that, dealing with recovering from, I do also struggle with ulcerative colitis. And when I was diagnosed with that was a fairly intense journey of losing a lot of strength, not being able to eat very much, feeling like I couldn't really do all of the things that I wanted to do because colitis does a nasty number on your immune system. And so over the years, not only do I love learning because I am also an educator, but I also really want to know just how to make my own life better, how to feel healthier, how to feel stronger, how to step out of my own comfort zone, which is something I don't think all of us love to do. Not force myself, but encourage myself to step out of my comfort zone and try new things. So when I came across, or after my most recent scare with a breast lump in June of this past year, what I did was worked really hard on my mindset because of melanoma, and the incident with melanoma taught me anything. It's that perspective is everything. And so the perspective is that every day we can choose healthy habits. We can choose to do things just a little bit better. We can choose to change the dialogue that's happening in our head and flip that to try to make it through those really tough days and keep going and level up, stay healthy, and continue to grow and learn. So, where did Mind Game come from? When I came across maybe podcasting was my next step, I was feeling a little bit stuck, not really quite sure exactly what I wanted to do next. And podcasting kept popping up, whether it was on Facebook or Instagram, or what I was listening to kept circling back to that. And so, where did it come from? It came through a lot of searching for different names. I had hundreds and hundreds of names. A lot of podcast names are already taken. But based on the books that I was reading and the training that I've done in the past, what I came to realize is really the only person standing in our way is ourselves. In order to get out of the way, we have to figure out what's going on up here. And to do that, we need to learn how and how to develop the habits. So, Mind Game, Level Up Your Life, came from a variety of different books that I was reading. Perhaps Mind Game was a little bit edgy for what I was thinking about. I wanted something with fire and light up your soul, but so many of those are already taken. So, Mind Game, Level Up Your Life comes from some of my favorite authors, Simon Sinek, talking about the infinite game and how there's the finite game and the infinite game. The finite game has rules, and the people that make up the rules are the ones that often say that they're winning. They say, I did this, I won, I've achieved it. But the game isn't over. Life isn't over. Life continues to go on. So what he proposes in the infinite game is it's really about learning how to continue to play. It's about learning from the people who you are playing in those games with. And if you are in a finite game where there is a milestone or a marker, that's exactly what it is. It is a point in time in your journey of life where you can choose what to do next. It's not about winning and you're done. Life is about continuing to learn, continuing to level up, continuing to play the infinite game. So Simon Sinek is one of my favorite authors. I'm also a huge Malcolm Gladwell fan. I've read all of Malcolm Gladwell's books. Probably one of my favorite pieces is the stories that he tells and how he weaves them all together. And so he weaves you from one story to the next, and pretty soon you've learned all of this amazing information, and he circles you back to the beginning to answer that question that he posed originally. With Malcolm Gladwell, one of the first books I read was The Tipping Point, and one of the parts that really resonated with me was about there are three types of people, and he spoke about the connector. And the connector is someone in your life that has connections to lots of other people. They have a strong network, and they are there to help connect you to people you didn't know that you needed to meet. And so part of the goal of this podcast is to connect you with people to teach you things that you didn't even know you needed to learn so you can level up your life. So my goal here is to have guests that are from across the world, from local, for a variety of topics. But again, we're always going to come back to how can we use some of the habits and things that we learn from people to level up our life? And did you know that was something perhaps that might help you? And if it is, I encourage you to learn more about that person and follow and read more information on that. If episodes are helpful for you, drop a comment down below and let us know. Or if you have suggestions for amazing people that we should connect with and interview in the future, please let me know. So Simon Sinek, Malcolm Gladwell. I read Jane McGonigal's book, Super Better first, and Super Better is about inspiring resilience and building resilience in people. And she has a PhD in game design, and she fell and hit her head and had a terrible concussion that caused very severe depression, because in order to heal from it, she just needed to stop doing everything. And when she stopped doing everything, she said she started to get more and more depressed. And so what she decided to do was learn or think about what she could learn from the art of game design, and how if we apply the principles of gaming in a healthy amount to our own lives, we can actually use those strategies to level up our life and build resilience. So sometimes you'll hear me talk about Jane McGonigal, and Super Better, she talks about quests. So things that are just outside our comfort zone, we have to work a little harder for, that will help us to level up or build resilience in our brain. She talks about power-ups, which are things you can do in 60 seconds or less to help build mental, social, emotional, and physical resilience. The other thing that she talks about is sometimes naming your villain. So is it that sticky chair? So if you sit down at night, you know you are not getting out of that chair. I know sometimes it takes me a little while to get to my workout, but there are strategies and ways you can stack your habits in order to get those things done that you know will make a difference to you. Jane McGonigal also talks about giving yourself a superhero name to keep you going. And the other thing that she says is finding allies. And allies are those people that are all around you that can help you to level up your life. So as you listen to this episode and to other episodes, think about the amazing people in your life that are there to support you and to help you level up. One of the books I'm currently reading by John Gordon, it talks about the power of one, and that we are all united together. And the sooner we realize that we are all in this together, and that what we do impacts those around us, we can surround ourselves with amazing people who can help us level up our life. The other book that I just read by Jane McGonigal, I think it was this fall when I started reading it, is called Imaginable. And so Jane McGonigal over the years has evolved her role into a futurist at the Futurist Institute, I believe in California. And she talks about all of the things that you can use, the strategies of being a futurist, so that you can look at what are some of those global trends. She talked about in probably 2013 or around there, World Bank, for example, reached out and asked her to create and run simulations of what might happen if major world events occurred. So in 2020, when COVID arrived and the pandemic flared up around the world, she had actually already run simulations that dealt with pandemics, wildfires, with all of the other things that were happening around the world. She was actually able to predict how people were behaving. And so her book goes through and unpacks and looks at the way that they predict some of those future trends. What they do is look at things like the Global Risk Report. They look at what's already happening around us. One of my favorite quotes that came out of the book was, "The future is already here. It's just not evenly distributed yet." So what that means is, and I challenge you to do this, is do some future spotting. Look around you. Where do you see those moments of the future, those pieces that are just a little different than the way they were, people who are thinking in some new ways? Those possibly are already elements of the future because it's already here. We just haven't noticed it yet. She goes on in her book to talk about the Global Risk Report, something I never thought I would really read or look into, but it is quite interesting. She talks about some of the there's of course climate change, global warming, all of those factors impact where people live, whether you would live in your home year round or just part of the year. But some of the other really interesting pieces, also because I'm an educator, is the young generation that we have coming up is feeling very unsettled. They have, what did she say? That generation has the power to destabilize world economies because they are a globally connected generation. They are tired of all of us in the previous generation saying, yeah, we see there's a problem, we'll fix it, but we're not fixing it. And so what she says is that we need to look at and harness the power of those younger generations. They need to feel heard, and we need to empower them to use the tools and the skills that they have for good. Because if they become dissatisfied and feel like there's no one listening to them and nothing's being done, they have the power to destabilize world economies. That sounds a little bit intense for episode 1. Some of the other things that she talks about is misinformation and disinformation, the unequal distribution of internet access, and how will that affect things that are happening in the future. So some of those things we'll dig into. Maybe someday I can even interview some of these amazing authors. The other area that I love to learn more about is nonverbal communication. And so what does your body language say for you that you don't even actually have to say? And some of my favorite authors there, Vanessa Van Edwards has a couple great books on body language, how you can put yourself into different rooms. So if you're shy and quiet and you end up in a room, how do you situate yourself so that you can talk with other people that are there? What do the different signals mean that people are giving you? What happens if there's a single shrug or a half-sided smile or people's eyes light up? And how does the entire face tell you the story of more of that? I also have a favorite author, Chris Voss, who talks about Never Split the Difference, the art of negotiation. He's a former FBI hostage negotiator. And so he talks about some of those negotiation pieces that you could use. For example, if you're in a more tense situation, you should slow down, drop the level of your voice. He talks about the late night radio DJ voice. So we will look back and talk about a few of those things as well. I hope that you're finding this part of the podcast interesting so far. I always love learning about new and different topics, and these are some of my favorite authors. Each of these, of course, could be an individual episode in the future. Thank you so much for tuning in. What we're going to hop into next is how do we build some habits and how do we go from some of the interesting things that I'm learning about in order to get to putting those things into action. So let's learn about a few more books that I love to learn about and hop into a little bit about how consistency helps us level up. The consistency, because we know going to the gym, I was listening to one of the apps that has some of the motivational talks the other day, and it said going to the gym for 1 day is not going to change your life. Going to the gym for 2 days is not going to change how you look. All of those pieces, all of that work is all of the small things that you keep doing day in and day out with consistency to form habits. Habits will build that discipline. The discipline over time is what will drastically change your life without you even realizing it. So it is some of the small things in life that make huge changes. What I want to do in this podcast is go behind the scenes with people, have conversations with real people who have achieved great things, who are living lives doing what they want, who have leveled up their life. And I want to look behind the scenes and know what was part of their struggle. What are some of the things that they found interesting? What do they continue to learn about? What are some of the habits that they use to continue to level up their life? So this fall, I came across, and like I mentioned before, as I dig into my fitness journey, I want to learn how to hit those next levels, how to continue to be healthy, and what are some of the things you can do to manage stress, and what are some of the things that are perhaps limiting you. And so a couple of books crossed my path. One of them was by Jenny Potter. It's called Self-Sabotage No More. And she talks about the limiting beliefs that we establish really early on in life that we don't even know we have. She talks about being in an airplane and the autopilot goes off and says that the crash is imminent. But when the pilot actually looks out the window, it's the autopilot malfunctioning. They are fine. And so in order to get that alarm to stop going off, what they have to do is go to manual. And so she said, often our lives are on autopilot because of the limiting beliefs or the beliefs that are ingrained into us during childhood and early adulthood, and that we don't even process and think about why we react the ways that we do or that we don't. She talks about unprocessed emotions being stored in the body and those impacting how we react to the world around us. And she talks about different ways to get into the operating system. How do you change those beliefs that you are worthy, that you are enough, that you have the capability to create the life that you want? Hopefully we'll talk to Jenny Potter at some point in this podcast, and I'll certainly share a few more of the highlights from her book. One of the other books that led me to was the work of Dr. Joe Dispenza. So in the book Supernatural, Joe Dispenza digs into how do we look at the operating system that we have in place? What are some ways that we can get beyond ourselves? What have we consciously put in place? We think we're doing all of the right things, but our unconscious, our subconscious has these limiting beliefs in place, which are slowing us down and making it harder for us to create the life that we want. One of the things, and again, I'm a former science teacher, so one of the things that he talked about in one of his, I'm not sure it was a TED Talk or a podcast that I was listening to, he talked about the difference between the Newtonian and the quantum world. And he talked about the Newtonian world is what we grew up with, believing there's a cause and an effect. You do this, then this happens. It's very logical. It's very sequential. Life goes in one thing after the other. You can see that timeline. There is only one timeline. He said with the new research and the new technology and tools that they have, is they're finding, and if you look into quantum mechanics, there is an entire other view of how the world might exist. And so in quantum mechanics, instead of the cause and effect, believing that all of the possibilities are around us all of the time, it depends which one you choose to access and the energy and the vibration level that you have. And in the quantum field, you can cause an effect. And so when you begin to understand how what you do can cause an effect, you can begin to change your life. So we will dig into a little bit more of Dr. Joe Dispenza. He does talk about meditation. He does talk about how we see the world and how we can start to shift that and how we can change our energy. And so what I hope this podcast brings to you is a raise in the vibrational level of the energy in your life by opening the doors and connecting you with new people, new ideas, new habits, and ways for you to get out of your own way so you can level up your life. So that was episode 1. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found a few new favorite books. I hope you found a few ideas that will make a difference in your life. Here's the secret that I've learned as I'm trying to edit episode 1 and get ready to podcast, ready to post episode 1. You just have to start. Confidence comes after you start, after you take the action and get going. So here is your episode 1 Mind Game Level Up Your Life challenge. So this is, and here's your challenge, share this episode and include one key takeaway that you learned here. And of course, if you want to tag your friends and subscribe on Spotify, Apple, or YouTube, I would be forever grateful if you choose to subscribe to the podcast. Thank you so much. I will see you next week. Thank you for choosing to listen to Mind Game, a podcast to level up your life. We hope that you've enjoyed the insights, inspiration, and habits shared in this episode. Your support is a game changer, and we are incredibly grateful to be on this journey with such an amazing community of listeners. If you have any wonders, questions, or suggestions about this or future episodes, we'd love to hear from you. Connect with us on social media and share your feedback. Remember, you can catch all of our episodes on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. Make sure to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps us bring valuable content to you, our listeners. Don't want to miss the next episode? Join our Facebook group and email list and get ahead of the game. Until next time, remember to mind the game so that you can get out of your own way and level up your life.